to this episode of Made in Asia, the podcast about entrepreneurs and creators in the experience and transformation economies in Asia. Today, we're going Olympic here in Hong Kong. It's an Olympic neighborhood, and we have a very special guest. And you might think this is Tom Hanks from Castaway. It's a temporary thing, so just get used to it. Summer will come and I'll get back to my former self. But we're Castaway that we can't get out there. Stuck in Hong Kong for the time being. Vaccines are delayed and all that, but we'll get through this. And in the time, distraction is obviously a big thing. And in the experience economy, there's nobody else better. And in entertainment than Disney. And today we're very proud and honored to have here Nicholas Shum, an Imagineer from Disney. So amazing, I would say. It's really cool to have you, Nicholas. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, so people may wonder what's an Imagineer. So I'm going to give a quote here from some person that's passed away a few years ago, but you may be familiar with it. We keep moving forward, opening up new doors and doing new things because we're curious, and curiosity keeps leading us down new paths. We're always exploring and experimenting. We call Imagineering the blending of creative imagination with technical know-how. Walt Disney.
It's a legend.
Yeah, legend, bigger inspiration, done so many things, right? So that's sort of the statement from him, but what does an Imagineer really do?
Wow. Well, we come up with the creative, we come up with the concept, we bring the imagination to real life, and through WDI, which is Walt Disney Imagineering, we build these highly themed attractions and lands and teleport people from their regular daily lives to Disney-themed lands.
Okay, so it focuses mostly on the theme parks, right? Imagineering?
Correct, absolutely.
There was a few attraction thing outside, but mostly 98% is within theme parks, right?
That's right. It's a division under the Disney Parks and Resorts.
Right.
And we work exclusively for Parks and Resorts to bring this to real life.
Okay. And you're in the Hong Kong park, is that right?
Correct. So I work for Walt Disney Imagineering Asia, and currently working for the Hong Kong theme park.
Okay. So we'll talk a little bit more what it all entails. It still sounds very mysterious, Imagineering, right? But clearly there's some engineering aspect in it where people apply physics and skills and all of that into blending it into another realm of fantasy or ideas, right? So that's where it comes together. Seems to be a pretty cool job, no?
I think I'm pretty lucky, pretty blessed to be working for the Disney Corporation. We take normal construction or we take heavy construction and we make it Disney-fied.
What does that mean, Disney-fied?
It's they're not just building a regular box and you're not just building a regular roller coaster or ride, but you're putting all the Disney aspects together to make it an amazing attraction. Putting together all the lights and sounds and special effects and making it safe for anybody's family to go and enjoy.
Right. And it's a big team, right? So there's thousands of Imagineers around the world.
All over the world, correct.
Okay.
We've got parks all over the world, headquartered in Glendale, California. And, Disney obviously great multinational from America.
Yep.
Two massive theme parks in both California and Florida. And they've been exporting it since, I want to say, the 80s, when they started opening expansions overseas in Asia and Europe.
Yep. And now, obviously, Shanghai, the most recent one, which is where your journey with Disney kind of starts. So tell us, how did you, what happened before you joined Disney and how did it come about? It's an interesting story for anyone who's interested in Imagineering, I guess.
Yeah, I was already living and working in Shanghai at that time. I had no idea that they were actually building a Disney theme park in Shanghai. I thought it was a joke. I thought it was just, why would Disney go to China to build a huge theme park? I had no idea. I didn't have any background in theme park construction. But I was in a running club. I met somebody that was already working for Disney in Shanghai, and they said they were looking for people. have a background in logistics, and building any kind of world-class project is a logistical nightmare. And I got the opportunity to interview and go visit the site where they're building outside of Pudong, and met some great people. They gave me an opportunity to join their team, and I said it was once in a lifetime opportunity to go build a world-class project in Shanghai.
Awesome. So guys, go running. It's a good thing. I have been running last week enough, but anyway.
You just never know who you're going to meet.
Exactly.
In any forum or any kind of activity, and you just have to be open and have a good conversation, and just it opens doors anywhere.
Yeah. So at what stage did you get involved in the Shanghai project? Was it bare land? I mean, it was vacant land. Did they already have construction underway, or where did you fit into that process?
Yeah, so by the time I joined the Shanghai project, all the foundations were already in. A lot of the superstructure was already being built and up, which is the concrete boxes and any steel structure. And we were probably, I'd say, about 12 months, 14 months away from doing like interior fit out. And
okay. How long does it normally take to build something like Shanghai Disneyland? 5 years or 7 years, or
I've got friends and colleagues that started way back in 2006, 2007. Wow. They started going to Shanghai.
10 years plus.
A lot of planning, a lot of strategy, a lot of initial works takes place a lot earlier before they go into construction. But what I heard from my old colleagues or even existing colleagues is that they were traveling back and forth.
Yeah. So they were based in Hong Kong at the time, or the US? So is it a global effort to put something like this together? How does it work for
Mainly from the US.
Okay.
Mainly from the US.
Yeah.
And at some point, I mean, when they get into the construction, putting in the piles and putting in the foundations, then they start sending a heavy team that will be based on the site or in the city. And I think, well, I was already living in Shanghai when I started working for Disney, but I think in the 2010s is when they started sending people to live full-time in Shanghai and work on the project in the field.
Okay. And have you been out to the headquarters in California?
Yes, I have. I've been to Glendale.
What kind of place is that?
It was pretty surreal for me first time. Being a Canadian kid, grew up in Toronto. I never thought I've been to Disneyland as a little kid, or Disney World as a little kid, and I never thought I'd be working for the Disney Corporation halfway around the world.
Yeah.
Going to Glendale or going to LA. LA is a great city, but going to head office and seeing where all the magic really comes from and the different divisions out there. Just the studio lot and seeing how big, not just Imagineering, but the whole Disney Corporation is out there with the ABC studios. Yeah. Yeah, it's a surreal experience.
Yeah, there's a big overlap, I guess, now with the movie side of Disney, right? Where a lot of feeds a lot into the attractions and into the parks, right? This is sort of a, how do you say, synergy, I guess, between two different businesses, that a lot of the attractions nowadays come directly from all the movies that are being produced, right?
Yeah, so Disney, obviously not just the name, but they've got a giant vault of IP. Disney Parks and Resorts is a massive part of the Disney Corporation. Brings in a ton of revenue for them. Especially now, like we've had a year, over 14, 16 months of COVID. All businesses are changing. So the movie business, the sports business, the news business, and especially the theme park business has changed quite a bit. Yeah. A lot of closures to the parks all over the world.
Tough times for sure. Yeah.
But with the IP, the company's trying to monetize, and we do that through the parks very well.
So going to Glendale, you see a lot of cool stuff. What's the most exciting part? What did you not expect to see when you went there? But that you can talk about, obviously. But stuff they do that's like just mind-blowing, or is there anything that's surreal?
The mind-blowing stuff I can't talk about.
Okay.
That's more of like some R&D efforts that we do, or that Disney does, and they don't open until we open a new land somewhere in the world.
Okay.
But it was just nice to go to like the movie lot and see where Walt Disney started doing his caricatures, and where his office was, where they actually filmed TV shows and some of the movies on the ABC lot. where Iger works.
Yeah.
They my colleagues over there opened up all the doors and took me around and showed me what it was, what it is like to work for the Disney Corporation and how big it is.
How long did it take? A couple of days? A week?
No, it was just a day. We just drove around, and I mean, it's quite spread out around LA.
Yeah, check out the different places. Cool. So, when you started, what in terms of what you're getting yourself into this job, what did you have any expectations, or were you blown away by what actually unfolded in front of your eyes, or were you part of?
Because I was new to construction, I had no expectations. I just figured I was going to learn a new trade, learn from some heavy hitters from Disney that's been doing it for a long time.
Yeah.
I got to work with some of the greatest architects and engineers and show production and fabrication people that, they've been working on Disney projects in Asia and America and Europe. And just culmination of experience really taught me everything I need to know.
To build more of these places.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
To start this adventure.
Right. So what's the rewarding part of creating a ride? Is that see people talk about it, or where that people enjoy Disney in general, that it becomes more popular as a park? What's the gratification you get out of it?
I think the best way to say it is after a long day in the office, you have your good days, you have your bad days. But when you get back on the MTR, you get back on the bus to leave the park, you see little kids, parents, teenagers, grandparents, everybody. They're wiped out, tired, they smell, and they're on the way back to the city just like I am. And you can just tell from their energy or from their experience that they've had a really good day, that they're really happy, that the magic has really uplifted their souls, and that to me is like really, really gratifying. That what we do, what we build, all the detail that we put into our work is
pays off. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for somebody in hotel trade as me, when I go in a hotel, I cannot look at it in an innocent form. I mean, I'm not a consumer in that way. You have this professional eye at one point that kicks in, and you start noticing a lot of things. How is it when you go into a theme park, be it a Disney park or if you ever go to another one? We're not going to talk about that, but how is it different for you to experience a park? I mean, you notice different things than a regular guest could ever even imagine exist, right? How does that journey work?
Of course, it's become an occupational hazard now. You just notice all the little things. As I mentioned just a little bit, is the detail, all the detail that at least we, Disney, put into how we build these lands. You start to notice where they spend the money, where they sort of value engineer some of it out.
Yeah.
A lot of theme parks, the ride systems and what they build and the IP they have, it's mainly where you see the money go.
Okay.
I guess it should be the same about hotels. Is where do they spend all their money?
Well, I think Disney is hopefully better managed than some hotels are being built. Because it's a corporation. It's a very well efficiently run corporation, whereas hotels are often passion projects, and money gets spent in places where it doesn't necessarily generate returns. Right.
Okay.
So that's why we have some very nice hotels and some where you just scratch your head and like, gosh, what were they thinking? But that's the world of hotels. There's less money probably involved too, right? In the bigger scheme of things.
Right.
The Star Wars attraction was a couple of $1 billion, I read, when they built that in Florida and in California, right? So these are huge investments when you build a new land.
When Disney picked up Lucasfilms and bought the IP for Star Wars, it's a huge IP. It's got a huge following. And the fact that they built one on each coast of the United States is, testament of where they see the brand and how they see it moving forward, not just in the theme park, but even the movies and the merch. And
Mandalorian as a TV show, right? And
correct.
It's all coming through, yeah. Okay. So in terms of what you do every day, you said you're more on the construction side. Is that project management related or construction I don't know. You said you don't have a construction background, so what does a work day in the work of?
Right. So I work for the project management and project controls team. We're doing the traditional project management. We do controls, so schedule, change management, and we've got a huge team. We've got a finance team. We've got your traditional QS teams, and we work with the PMs to make sure that we execute all the scope.
Okay. And you're working on an exciting project right now. Is that a secret as well, or?
So I can talk about that.
Okay.
I moved to Hong Kong in 2018 to work on Frozen Land for Hong Kong Disney.
Okay.
Hong Kong Disney set off on a multi-year expansion, and that included revamping what they have now, which is Ant-Man and Wasp. They have a Moana theater. They just completed the rejuvenation or reconstruction of the castle, and Frozen is next. And there will be one more project coming after, which is a Marvel-based or Marvel-themed attraction.
Exciting stuff. So is that, when you say revamping, is that the plussing? Or, I mean, there's a lot of jargon that flies around in Imagineering. Is that what you call plussing? Or is that just a continuous process? Or what does plussing mean?
It's refining. It's sort of taking some IP or taking an existing facility or ride and maybe revamping it for new IP, one that is more modern, one that is more attractive to the tastes of local market. And, these rides are concepted so early and built like Hong Kong Disneyland was built 15 years ago. It just had its 15-year anniversary. Some rides and some attractions just don't last the time. So
what's the target lifespan of a land or of a?
It's hard to say.
Okay. But you build it for probably 30 plus years, right? To make it last. If the IP lasts, then I guess that thing needs to run for quite a long while.
Right. This is all part of the commercial team and the industrial engineers. They go through and they see what's working and what's not working within the parks, and then they'll come talk to Walt Disney Imagineering and say, "Hey, listen, like this works and this doesn't work. How can we make it better?"
Okay. Do you have any personal favorite lands or rides, be it Disney or non-Disney? We talk.
So Shanghai holds a near and dear space in my heart. I spent a number of years up there and working on that project, so I feel like that's definitely my baby.
Okay. Any ride there or any land that you say like this is it for you? I mean,
yeah. So the Tron ride, Tron attraction is really amazing. It's one of a kind, first of its kind for Disney. That one's really cool, I think.
Okay. Because the user technology, or what? Why do you say it's a one of a kind and first of its kind?
So they don't have any other Tron attractions in any other park.
Okay, it's unique in that way. Okay.
Exactly, it was the first one.
Yeah.
And I think the motorcycle theme, the Tron theme, really
pretty cool. Yeah.
Future forward, Tomorrowland style.
Yeah. And as Imagineer, do you evaluate a land or a ride different than a guest would? I mean, does it reflect in the popularity or is say Pirates of the Caribbean much more popular? I mean, the way you experience it, because you know what's happening and all the detail and the complexity, right? That the Imagineers have solved, right?
Yeah, I'm just looking for cool factor. I mean, like I'm just as much of a guest, even though this is my craft.
Yeah.
Going to different theme parks, just seeing how they use their IP and what kind of ride systems or what they can develop and what they can build.
Yeah.
We're all trying to up each other, and Disney being near the top, even Universal Studios, they're building some really cool attractions. Recently, they just opened a Mario Brothers Land in Japan,
right?
Which I'm geeking out on. I'm watching YouTube to see what it looks like. And hopefully, one day we can go check it out.
Yeah. So the fun part, I guess, as you say, you're in project management. So it seems the guys in Glendale have a lot more fun creating stuff, right? So the creativity part is a huge element to it, right? And it's probably a long journey as well before it comes to your desk, basically.
Yeah, of course. Sort of where I'm at in WDI or what we do in country, sort of like WDI Asia. We're part of the execution. So a lot of the creative does come from Glendale. They concept it, and once the concepts become approved and move forward, they start involving the international teams where we're actually going to do the execution and the build out.
Okay. And how much of the, because you operate around the world, so obviously there's language issues, there's maybe cultural issues around how certain things are perceived or interpreted by the guest, and there's like a black box somewhere, right, between what is presented and what is then remembered, what makes your memory. Is that that's part of the creative process? How does it work, like in Shanghai bilingual, or it's in Chinese? It takes quite a big effort, right, to get that message right.
Yeah, so all this stuff is done all in the pre-planning, even before the concept. A lot of Disney, that the planning is a huge part. They have to work with the local government. Even coming to Hong Kong so many years ago, they have to joint venture with the government. In China, it's the same. They have to joint venture with a local conglomerate or a local business partner.
Yep.
And they have to sell the concept. Everybody has to buy in. These projects, like I say, are world-class, spend a lot of money to build resorts. I think it was like $6 or $7 billion what they spent in Shanghai to build just the base park, as we call it, which is a castle park. And that, takes not just a ton of money, but a ton of experts. And building it in a foreign country, you're building it for a guest and a demographic that you have to make sure will monetize and enjoy the product.
Right. And so I guess in the construction phase, you deal a lot more with outside companies, whereas in the creative part, it's maybe done more in-house, right?
Yeah, okay. That's right. We work with any expert in, even traditional engineering. We work with really good consultants from all over the world. Disney has a lot of the experts in-house.
Yeah.
And then we work with a lot of the experts, that are on the ground.
To make it happen, yeah. Okay. So for you guys watching, if you're still not sure what an Imagineer does, there's a pretty cool show, or like a set of videos from the Khan Academy, I think it's called, Imagineering in a Box. There's also Pixar in a box, but the Khan Academy did a good job. If you want to see how a land is created, or a ride, or a character, they have it all in there. So it's, I think, 30 videos or so. Definitely worth watching if you want to geek out about Disney stuff.
There are a ton of books out there too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ex-Disney or even ex-theme park builders, and they love to. It's a passion of theirs, and they write about it.
Yeah, YouTube, tons of videos, right? It's all happening, absolutely. One thing I wondered is, as you create an experience, is that always sort of a single layer experience in a land? I mean, does every guest more or less go through the same storyline? There's no, while you can maybe customize it a little bit, at the end of the day, the IP dictates the storyline, right?
What do you mean by single layer?
Like there's not an interaction is not open for multiple interpretations. It's always a very straightforward sort of, this is what the IP sort of, the story is, right? And that's then bundled up and presented, and it's always, there's only one way you can actually approach a land or a ride or the story.
I think every guest consumes it in their own way. They, like I say, we build these highly themed attractions and lands, and we want you to be immersed.
Yep.
So if you've watched a movie, or you've watched the short videos, short films, or when you get into the land, you consume it differently from being a child to being an adult to being, a grandparent. I don't know about the single layer, but we put so much detail that it's up for anybody's interpretation, but it does follow a storyline or an IP, and that's where we delve deep into.
So what you're saying is you make it accessible for different generations, for example, so they have their own viewpoints and pick it up like that, right?
Yeah, and the park, I mean, WDI has to take an interpretation. It can't just be a straight copy from a movie or single IP. They have to make sure it works. You've been to any theme park, there's restaurants, there's candy shop. There's merchandise shops, and not all films and not all IP will have that in the movie, or the creatives have to take that with a little bit of liberal action and make it into what we can build and show the guests.
Okay. So I guess it's a creative side of Imagineering a bit more, but Blue Sky is one big part. How does it work? I mean, would you, not that they have construction background, but do you see a lot of the DNA and sort of the culture from the creative side that comes into your project management side as well? Or is it, as you say, it's more execution and more getting it done to the finish line?
Yeah, so through my experience, by the time it gets into our hands, the Blue Sky is already done.
Okay.
And that's usually like the concept side. They have a grand idea to build a land based on whichever IP. They start doing a lot of the background information, gathering all the data that they need to see what they're going to put in the land, how it's going to work, scale, cost. Yeah. And by the time that's all worked out, when it reaches our hands, at least, or my hands, it's time to engineer it and
get it done.
Yeah, okay. Exactly.
Sounds like a big challenge maybe as well, though, right? When you have all these crazy ideas and you're like, how do we get this sorted, right, at the end of the day?
Yeah, and the concept side can take, can't really talk about time, but it can take years to get off the ground. If there's no appetite for it, then we wouldn't build it. Yeah. If there's appetite for it, how fast do you want it?
Okay. Yeah, I was reading, or in one of the Khan Academy videos, he was saying no idea is ever thrown away. There's no bad ideas, right? So everything is maybe put on a shelf and you can come back to it later. Or there's no crazy idea. It's just something that maybe it's not the right time for it.
Correct.
And you come back for it later.
Or it's not crazy enough.
Not crazy enough, yeah.
Technology hasn't reached that point yet.
Yeah, so speaking of technology, I guess that's one area where nowadays everybody talks about, and I'm not sure how much you can talk about it, but is it fair to say that technology will play an increasing bigger role in attractions and in rides and in interaction in Disneylands?
I think so. I think now with, VR, it's not your traditional roller coaster. It's not your traditional attraction anymore. There's ways to implement new technologies. 3D has been all over the place. It's already into consumers at home. How do you integrate that, or how do you put that into existing attractions or new attractions?
Yep.
Even just looking at our competitors or looking at other people building other theme parks around the world, they need to push the edge to make sure that their guests are happy.
Absolutely. So, well, you can deny it or whatever, but so I guess robotics is a big thing, because you see like animatronics that are independently operated, right? So they have their software and they interact with guests on their own, which seems pretty cool if you can bring a character like that to life. So I would think that's one. And you mentioned VR and 3D. Any other areas, like from the transportation, is that would you expect new technology coming there, or what area is most exciting that's out there in the world that could be brought into a theme park? Let's put it very generic.
I mean, like Star Wars Land has a robot or a droid that goes around the land and interacts with guests.
Jake, right? I think.
I don't know the name, but I've seen a couple videos.
Head shake, yeah.
Different tech. I don't know. I think all tech's kind of converging at the moment. I've seen a lot of like tech where you're standing in a queue and you can play games on your phone when you would be playing on your phone anyways.
Okay.
They'd immerse you a little bit more, get you to download apps. Other tech. What do you mean by like transportation tech? Or
it could be transportation, or it could be there's AI, right, which is not sure if it has a big role. It's maybe more on the analytics for a park, right, figuring out where people go, what people
guest
do,
flow, foot flow,
logistics, and that more operational, right, support. yeah. So I mean, the question was, what tech is exciting to put into a theme park? If you have saying, man, this is the stuff you said. I guess virtual or augmented reality is one, right, where you can do a lot, and there's much more use of screens now in the rides, where you use. It's not all sculpted or modeled. It's also that you have then bigger screens you can play with a lot, right? Which
and even traditional projection is getting even better. I've seen somewhere that they're doing holograms for concerts. Okay. I mean, that's just it's taking projection to the next level.
Okay.
We could start seeing some of that stuff pop up. What else is there?
You can talk about, very secretive port. Okay, let's talk about pixie dust. Can you talk about pixie dust?
Pixie dust. What about pixie dust do you want to...
What is it, first of all?
It's Tinkerbell coming around and sprinkling that Disney magic on any guests or any person that is in a Disney hotel, Disney park, watching a Disney movie.
Okay.
It's that fun vibe that gives you just a little bit more Disney-fied
experience. Okay. The cool thing is, I think in the Disney hotel here is that if you're in the lounge, Mickey comes around in his bathrobe during happy hour. So I guess is that a pixie dust kind of thing?
It is a moment. Having the characters walk around is big for the guests. It makes them happy. It lets them take pictures with them. Shows them that, Mickey and the friends, Minnie and the Fab Five, they're the original. That's what makes it Disney. You ask a little kid, you ask anybody what Disney is. Usually they say Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
And even in the parks, meeting the characters or taking a picture with them, people wait hours to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about advice. If somebody wants to become an Imagineer, I mean, do you need to have a background? I guess, construction and PM is one area, but there's also the creative part. So how do most people get into this trade of Imagineering? You were maybe not the role model of that, where you're just going in a running group and...
Takes a little bit of luck, but it depends on what part of Imagineering you want to work on. Okay. So, we are heavy construction, traditional fields. You can be an architect, you can be a structural engineer, you can be a mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineer. If you want to get into creative, are you an artist? Are you an illustrator? A lot of people jump between divisions. Traditionally they're an engineer, and then they can go into fabrication. Because it's so vast, even we have a huge ride team, and they're also engineers. And they're traditional in the sense that they all go to school, they all study, and get licenses. But look on the website, see what part of the Disney projects you want to work on. Even in construction, you can be a planning manager. You can be working on only schedule. You can be a traditional quantity surveyor, estimator,
right?
Landscape architect. There's so many ways to work on or touch a Disney project. A lot of them are in the traditional sense, and if it's not traditional where it's creative, you got to learn about the Disney side, and what the IP is about. And
so being a fan helps, but it's not everything, I guess.
It helps quite a bit.
Oh yeah, okay.
But it's not everything, like you just said. It's looking to see what kind of holes they have to fill and where you want to be in the organization.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so for those of you not a fan, you should become a fan. If you want to go in that direction, it helps.
Well, even we have like a huge show division, and what show is, it's like producing anything with IP. We have factories all over the world that produce product for us, and it could be even merch, like a little plush toy.
Yeah.
So,
mini Iron Man. So you've obviously visited, I guess, more theme parks or amusement parks than only Disney ones. Is that fair to say? Before you joined, maybe, was it?
I've been to quite a few theme parks now.
Okay. So what are sort of the things that, let's not talk about necessarily Disney, just about theme parks, but what makes or breaks a theme park where you say, like, is it just a collection of rides? Is that good enough? Or is that an amusement park then? Or, I mean, at what point can you say, like, yeah, these guys sort of, this was is it about being fun? Is that all about? Or with your occupational hazard, would you say, like, sheesh, I mean, why do they have to walk so far? Or where's the toilets? You know, where do you draw the line?
Yeah, so I think you nailed it. Is what's a theme park and what's an amusement park? Big rides are a big draw. Some of the operators out there do that really good. They have these giant roller coasters, and they're so fast, and they're so big, and they're so exhilarating. Even being from Toronto, there's Canada's Wonderland, and I'd call it a theme park. They've got a theme. They've got a mountain in the middle of the park, but they have these huge roller coasters. And then there's some Canadian theming in there.
Probably easier to do the rides than the IP part, right?
Definitely. They're not immersing you in a highly themed venue environment, but the rides are the big draw. They want to put people in seats and get them rolling through roller coasters.
Thrill for the sake of the thrill, whereas in Disney is usually the story that's sort of the most important part, and then the ride just interprets.
It's a vehicle for you to tell the story.
For the story,
and that's exactly it. That's what Disney does, and that's what the parks sell.
Okay. And what's the worst ride you've ever been on in any park?
Ooh.
You remember that at all, or you just are in denial?
They're not. Can't be worst. You know, they've been engineered. They spent a lot of money on them. They might be out of date.
Okay.
But no worst.
Okay, no worst. Yeah, out of date. I guess safety is an issue, right, when it comes to it. In some parks that they don't necessarily spend much on maintenance, I think, which is obviously in Disney very important on the operational side, right? That's
no, of course. We wouldn't build it if it wasn't safe. And when you go to other parks, they're operating regular rides, and they all have to be safe.
Yeah.
You wouldn't let the general public on.
So the testing phase, I guess you can't talk about time, but there's a sufficient amount or a very long amount of time spent on testing and making sure everything works out, right?
No, of course. Safety's number one priority on any attraction we build. And we spend a lot of time and money to make sure that, and engineering to get it right.
Yeah.
And that's in every country with different statutory requirements and different
approvals.
Exactly.
Okay. So as a who would be the testers? Is that cast members or just the staff, or who do you get in there to test out rides? I guess at first it would go on its own without people inside, but at one point, is it volunteers or is it close to the public until it's usually?
No, it's it follows a general rule. You don't open to the public until it's got all the approvals.
It's all set.
One thing that most parks do, or that I've seen in the industry, is that they have like a soft opening.
Yep.
And at that point, everything's already approved and ready and greenlit to go. So, testing phase wise, it's either you have guests or you don't have guests on the vehicles.
Okay. So the ride is seems to be for, say, amusement parks, is a key attraction in itself, right? I mean, there's, as you said earlier, the IP is more difficult to come by, and then it's just a matter, do you have quality rides or how big, what's your draw at the end of the day?
Usually it's based around a ride, depends on what kind of ride. You've been on a roller coaster, you've been on a water ride,
right?
You've been on a, what else are there? Round ride. Mixing in, we were talking about a little bit of technology. How do you take these traditional ride systems and make them new and exciting again, or reinvent them to be a little more exhilarating, or can twist and turn and make your guests see or feel on a different level.
Yeah.
But it's usually based around a ride system, and then the IP will take you through the story.
Okay. Okay, so I guess that's when and a park needs to be large enough to be half a day long, or I mean, how big does the park need to be that you can spend a whole day or half a day, or how do you? I'm not talking about Disney, but in general, what do you think is like a size that it makes sense to start contemplating? Because it's quite a substantial investment after all. Right?
No, of course. It's got to be full day entertainment.
Okay.
Without being specific on numbers, it's just your guest is spending money to buy entry into your park. It can't just be rides, you know. You gotta serve them food. You got to have some sort of show, and it's got to be fun for the whole family.
Right. Are those the main components then? So rides, shows, and food.
Well, that and
the character interaction
and merchandise.
Merchandise, yeah.
You're trying to capitalize on each guest and make them spend per head, per square meter.
Yeah.
A lot of the industrial engineers take care of that really early on to see, markets and how many people they can get in every day, every month, every year. And they try to better the business every year that the park's in operation.
Right. So there's a term called RD&E. Is that sort of the binding glue between the attractions, or what do you define? So retail, dining, and entertainment, right?
Right. And Hong Kong per se doesn't really have one of those, but they do have one in Shanghai, where just beside the park there is an RD&E, and it's retail dining experience. They have a theater. They've got some big ticket restaurants. It's a place where you can go without buying entry into the park.
Yeah, non-ticketed area. Right?
Exactly. It's designed and built by Disney, but you can take your family there to have dinner.
Okay.
Maybe watch the fireworks from the outside of the park.
Yeah. Epcot, I think, has it in Orlando, right?
Yep.
They have a part. Yeah.
Yep. California has one as well. There's a merchandise store. Usually, it's another place where Disney can set up some of its own businesses,
right?
But can bring in other retailers to also, sell other products.
So that caters more, I guess, to a local population. When there's people can just go there, hang out, and they, if you go for dinner, why not go to Disney, right? That kind of idea.
Yeah, and in Shanghai, they don't sell any alcohol in the park, but when you go to the RD&E area, you can have alcohol with your dinner. Okay. You can go to a traditional restaurant.
Yeah, I think Universal in Orlando is the same, where there's no alcohol in the park, but outside at the RD&E area.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, being mindful of time as well. So in terms of advice, or in general, if you look at your career, I mean, how do you get ahead? I guess it's are you looking to become on the creative side, or would you be interested in doing that, or where do you see your journey?
I wouldn't I'm not going in the creative side.
Okay.
I'm quite happy where I am right now in the project management and control side. Being a leader, being a manager, working with such a diverse and big team.
How big is the team? Is that 100 people you said, or?
In and around it, it varies along the different phases of the project.
Okay.
We bring in different members, different colleagues to help us design and then execute and finish projects. Putting it all together, I think, is the most gratifying part. We deal with interesting issues every single day.
Yeah.
We're problem solving, and a little bit new managers, or at least in this day and age. I was just listening to a podcast. We're called crisis managers now, and just dealing with different crises every day. Big problems, small problems. We have to navigate, and we got to make sure that we're building the right scope, on the right budget, and on the right schedule.
Okay.
So nailing those three is not easy. If you get 2 out of 3, you're pretty lucky.
Are you looking forward, I guess, to the opening, to finishing it, or you think the journey is so much fun that you would wish it would never end?
It's got to end. We all got schedules and budgets to meet, but the journey definitely. You got good days, you got bad days. It's all part of the journey, and to stay positive and stay mindful. Just managing your own stress and managing your team and making sure everybody's on the same page.
Right.
Being a project manager, that's your job. That's my job, and putting it together.
Yeah. And how much of that is teamwork, and how much do you spend sort of, I mean, in a work day, is it plenty of meetings, or is it mostly that, you focus more on?
It's all teamwork.
Okay.
Like I said, it's a logistical nightmare to build such a massive, world-class project like this that, I've got teammates and team members from all over the world, all different time zones. Okay. So we're having meetings early in the morning and late at night. Okay. So being flexible.
Sounds fun. Yeah. Okay. And what do you think in terms of where is the theme park industry heading for the next 10 years? Is it that influence of technology that will become bigger, or is it IP that will be more driven, or it's already driven by movies? What do you think is, what can we expect theme parks in general for the next 10 years? Is it going to be same as last 10 years? What's going to be exciting?
I think just like any other industry, it's going to be shaken up. There's a lot of convergence in all industries today, especially with COVID. Even the parks now, they're not operating at capacity. The government says you can only open to a certain percentage of capacity. The business is going to have to change. People's tastes are going to change. Even today, now we look at entertainment when you've been stuck in country or you can't travel. The local market needs to support your business. Without international guests coming to the park, we have to find different ways to make it interesting for our guests right now. And then when you say something like in 5 or 10 years, tastes change.
Absolutely.
Technology change. So what's the appetite for the business to implement this and say shut down an attraction to upgrade it? Is it worth the upgrade? Also where the local market goes, you can see in Hong Kong, they have Ocean Park.
Ocean Park, yeah.
And that's gone through a massive change. They're trying different things to revamp their business. Disney hasn't had to do that yet or hasn't gone there, but Disney does it a little bit differently as well. So it's really seeing where the competitors are and seeing where the local tastes or even the guest tastes have changed. Yeah. Staycations has become a huge thing now. Disney's got 3 massive hotels on property.
Was there a 4th one in construction, or that was the 3rd one that opened recently?
It was the 3rd one that just opened a few years ago. A couple years ago.
Okay.
Just even like the hotel tastes have changed. Yeah. So, you've got three hotels on property. Do they have to look at something different? Do they have to change up some of the theming, or, it's to see how many guests really want to come and do a staycation and hang out on property.
Well, it's full on Easter, I heard from Eunice. So I guess it's still popular. And it's a great time to spend, with your family or loved ones and get out there and check it out. So, we're up on time, unfortunately. It's flown quite a bit. So great having you, Nicholas. Really, that was fun.
Thank you so much.
Learning a bit more about what's happening in Disney Imagineering. And there's a lot happening. And I look forward to see your next project. Do you know when it's open? Or is it now timelines announced?
No timelines announced at the moment.
Okay.
Can't let the cat out the bag.
Okay. All right. But more fun to come at Hong Kong Disneyland. So thanks, Nicholas.
Thank you so much.
And I guess you got to go back to work and with different time zones and keep project managing it. And we'll see you in the next episode. This was Made in Asia, the podcast for entrepreneurs and creators in the experience and transformation economies in Asia. You can find us on our website, made-in.asia, or on our Instagram, madeinasia_the podcast. Next episode, stay tuned. Best way to do that is through our Instagram, see what's happening, or read up in our blog about backgrounds and other interesting stuff. So thanks all for joining, and hope to see you soon.